Grayson, tell me about Turned Out Good. What were you, did you write it?
Yes, ma'am. So it wasn't something I intended to write. I did a master's from seminary in counseling and was learning about how important the first couple years of life are as to who you turn out to be. And I was at home. I was with my dad cooking steaks. And I said, hey, thank you for letting me be. I was raised by my granddad and his older sisters when my folks would go to work. So I spent a lot of time with a bunch of old people. And I said, hey, Dad, thanks for letting me be raised by all these elderly people that had nothing better to do than to worship the ground I walked on instead of, like just a sophomore. Because I understand now like how important that was as to who I've become. And my dad locked up and he started crying. He said, the only reason you were raised that way is because I was abused by my babysitter as a child and your mama doesn't know and nobody knows. And I want to remember my childhood, but I don't. I think it was good, but I don't know. And sucked it up. And I had no idea what to do with that. And at this point, Dad was 52, 53. He had held that in since he was 8 years old. Hadn't told us all. And I was in Walmart and was pushing a buggy, and songwriting's weird. Most of the time I get the lyrics and the melody at the same time. And this line came into my head that's in the second chorus of the song. And I didn't really know what to do with this bit of information because it's like, well, this is a horrible story to tell. How do I redeem it? Because my dad turned out good. And the only other story that I could think of in my own life was when my grandfather, he passed away in September, when he was 3 years old, he lost his mom. She got melanoma from picking cotton, and she died in her 30s. When he was 7, he got rheumatic fever, and it paralyzed him from the waist down. And so he just kind of scooted around on his butt. And he hadn't walked, I think, in 6 or 8 months, and he's about to die. And his father, who was a belligerent alcoholic, was like, well, there's a church service going on the other side of the county. We'll take you if you want to go, but whatever you want to do, it's up to you, but it's kind of it. And they took him, and the whole family stands outside this church service arguing about who's going to take the kid in there because none of them want to walk in there. None of them want anything to do with the good Lord. And finally, my great-granddad said, well, forget all y'all. I'm sure it was more colorful than that. I'll take him. And so he comes stumbling down the aisle, this drunk with his 7-year-old paralyzed child. And the evangelist said, hey, what's wrong with him? And he said he hadn't walked in 8 months. I said, okay. In the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Ghost, put him down and let him go. And my granddad took off running. No rehab, no atrophy, miraculous healing. Boom. Whole family converts, builds the church I was raised in. Which is why something as simple as cussing in a movie was such a big deal. Because we'd seen the other side of you have what it's like to be holy and separate, and what this in the world and not of it line is, and that's in this case is crossing it.
And it's not out yet.
No, it's not out yet. It comes out Father's Day. And the really solid thing about that song is I'm run a Southern rock band. We're playing all over the place, whether it's Broadway at Nashville or we're opening for Lauren Daigle for like 40,000 people in June. Maybe something like that, June, July. But we're able to do our whole spiel. I can play that song and say whether you lost your mom as a child, you're terminally ill, you were beaten and abused by the only people who were ever supposed to love you. It can end with you because the only common denominator in either of these men turning out good is Jesus Christ. That's it. And here's your evidence. And I'm able to bring my dad out, who sings circles around me. And we'll do either I Can Only Imagine, which is the first song I ever learned to sing, or Can't Even Walk. Can't even walk without you holding my hand from like the 70s or 80s. And then we'll go into Freebird or whatever it is. We'll go right back to our show. But by the time it's over with, there will be a longer line of grown, burly, 50-something-year-old men that are bawling their eyes out that have come to meet my father and go, how in the world did your marriage survive? Did your kid turn out all right? There'll be a bigger line to meet my dad as there have ever been Talladega Nights or Wimpy Kid or Greyhound fans. And it's able to redeem, all my father's, the things that have plagued my father for his whole life. And we're able to do that. We've done it on Broadway at PBR downtown on 2nd Avenue for CMA Fest. No different than we can do that in a church. That's how I like my ministry to go. because it's on people that are, might not be so jaded as church folks, because it's easy to be after a while. And I love getting to do it. And that's what I want to do the rest of my life. So.